Welcome to the Bluesound Professional Technical Webinar on the B400S 4-Zone Network Music Player. I am Ross Eberlin, the Product Manager for Bluesound Professional. I will be taking us step by step on how to use the B400S. Let's begin. To help maximize the understanding of this product, we recommend that you first complete the review of the BluOS Pro 101 Technical Webinar so that network settings, Bluesound controller apps, and how to place support requests are fully understood. Remember to first download the BluOS controller app to your PC, Mac, or mobile device. Use the link for more information. The Bluesound Professional B400S is a 4-zone network music player designed specifically for use in commercial installations. This 1U player is based on the established BluOS platform and is capable of playing and distributing content from local storage as well as from a large number of streaming services, including some specifically designed for commercial use such as Sound Machine, Custom Channels, Q6, SiriusXM Music for Business, and Tunify. These sources can be played to one or more of the 4 available stereo zones, with the B400S effectively acting as 4 independent players, with the capability of completely separate content and control or grouping into user-definable groups of whatever size required, with different zones within the B400S and/or other connected Bluesound Professional players on the network. The features are as listed below. The B400S specifications are as listed. For the B400S with 4 streams running, the power consumption is not a consistent data point, but the maximum power is just under 16 watts. Under 120 volts AC, the surge power consumption during boot up is 15.3 watts. When streaming music to 4 zones, the power consumption is usually between 9.2 to 10.9 watts. When streaming pink noise to 4 zones, the power consumption is usually between 9.5 to 10.2 watts. Some surges will reach 13 watts. Under 230 volts AC, the surge power during boot up is 15 watts. Idle power, no streaming after boot up, 9.4 watts. Streaming pink noise to 4 players, the power consumption is between 9.6 to 10.6 watts, occasionally reaching 15.1 watts. On the front of the B400S, there is a status indicator that can provide some important information. For example, once fully booted, the B400S, when connected successfully to a LAN, will show a solid blue light. This does not mean it has successfully connected to the internet. That is dependent on checking via the Bluesound controller app that services are fully available as discussed in the BluOS 101 webinar. Other status lights to note. If the player is displaying a solid red light, it may be stuck in upgrade mode and may be worthwhile executing a factory reset covered in this presentation. Or if that does not solve the issue, please place a support request. When an upgrade is underway, you will see alternating flashing red-green lights. The player will not play music at this time and must be resumed by the user after the upgrade is completed. The other status indicator modes are rarely seen, though flashing blue will happen if mute is selected. Section 2, Preamplifier In. Ensure that the supplied line mic in terminal blocks plus/minus ground are wired accurately to corresponding output terminals of compatible external devices such as CD player, tuner, network music players, or other applicable devices. Install the wired up line mic in terminal block to B400S preamplifier in terminal. The source will appear as an analog input in the navigation drawer of the BluOS app. Preamplifier out, zones 1 to 4. Ensure that the supplied preamplifier out terminal blocks plus/minus ground are wired accurately to corresponding input terminals of compatible external devices, such as amplifiers, receivers, or other applicable devices. Audio output for each preamplifier output is dependent upon the current or selected source of the particular player. This is configurable via the BluOS app. The selected source can be any media available from the BluOS app's navigation drawer. Section 3, Phantom Power. B400S is equipped with switchable phantom power. With line mic switch set to mic and phantom switch at on position, plus 48 volts phantom power is supplied to a connected microphone that requires phantom power for operation. The LED above the switches is also illuminated red to indicate that plus 48 volts phantom power is being supplied. Set phantom switch to off position for microphones that do not require phantom power. Retain default settings of line mic switch set to line and phantom switch at off position in the absence of microphone input. Section 4. Optical in. Connect to a corresponding optical digital output of sources such as CD players, digital cable box, digital tuners, network music players, or any other compatible devices. The source will appear as an optical input in the navigation drawer of the BluOS app. Digital preamplifier output, optical, coaxial, zone 1 to 4. Connect any or all of digital preamplifier output ports to corresponding optical or coaxial input ports of compatible amplifiers, receivers, or processors. Audio output for each digital preamplifier output is dependent upon the current or selected source of the particular player. This is configurable via the BluOS app. The selected source can be any media available from the BluOS app's navigation drawer. Section 5. LAN and USB. The LAN connection must be set up for wired connection to be established. Set up a wired Ethernet broadband router with broadband internet connection. Your router or home network should have a built-in DHCP server to consummate the connection. Using a standard straight-through Ethernet cable, connect one end of the Ethernet cable to the LAN port of your wired Ethernet broadband router and the other end to B400S's LAN port. Connect to this USB port USB mass storage devices formatted as FAT32 NTFS or Linux X4. The connected USB device appears as a local source in the BluOS app. Access and playback music stored in the connected USB device by selecting USB from the BluOS app. Section 6. Reset. Using the reset button to switch B400S from operating mode to standby mode. Switch from operating mode to standby mode. While at operating mode, press and hold reset button until the illuminated blue LED status indicator turns off. B400S is not accessible via BluOS app while at standby mode. Switch from standby mode to operating mode. While at standby mode, short press reset button. LED status indicator will turn red to flashing green if there's no wired internet connection, or turn to red, flashing green, and then solid blue with wired internet connection. Use the reset button to restore B400S to its factory default settings. Factory reset is recommended if your B400S is not functioning or internet firmware upgrade has failed. All customization, configuration, file shares, and saved playlists will be lost. They have to be recreated once factory reset is completed. For the factory reset procedure, follow the procedure that is listed. Important note: releasing the reset button at any time before the front LED indicator starts flashing red will cancel the factory reset and leave the B400S at upgrade mode. Just start again the procedure for factory reset. Section 7. Service. These USB port and tack switch are for servicing purposes only, not for consumer use. Section 8. Plus 12 volt trigger on-off. The settings of plus 12 volt trigger on-off together with a plus 12 volt trigger in, item 9, affect the manner on how the B400S is powered up. Slide the plus 12 volt trigger on-off switch to off for the B400S to be powered up normally. This is the default setting. At off setting, 12 volt trigger out will output 12 volts when B400S is at operating mode and 0 volts when it's at standby mode or powered off. At on setting and with the plus 12 volt trigger in of the B400S connected to compatible external equipment that is equipped with the plus 12 volt trigger output, the B400S can be switched remotely from standby mode to operating mode and vice versa. With plus 12 volt trigger on-off switch set to on, the B400S can only be powered up by the plus 12 volt trigger source. Section 9. Plus 12 volt trigger in, out, IR in. The 12 volt trigger IR in terminal block is divided into 3 sections: 12 volt trigger in, 12 volt trigger out, and IR in. Connect the 12-volt trigger in terminals to compatible external 12-volt trigger source and 12-volt trigger out terminals to compatible external equipment that is equipped with a 12-volt trigger input. On the other hand, connect the IR in section terminals to the output of an IR infrared repeater, Xantec or similar, or IR output of a compatible device to allow control of B400S from a remote location. Install the wired up 12-volt trigger IR in terminal block to B400S's plus 12-volt trigger IR in rear panel terminal. The plus 12-volt trigger in-out allows the B400S to be remotely switched from standby mode to operating mode and vice versa by ancillary equipment such as preamplifier, AV processor, etc. The controlling device must be equipped with a plus 12-volt trigger output to use this feature. The 12-volt trigger out is used for controlling external equipment that is equipped with 12-volt trigger input. With 12-volt trigger on-off switch set to off, this output will be 12 volts when the B400S is at operating mode and 0 volts when it's at standby mode or powered off. Refer also to the item about 12-volt trigger on-off. IR in. To program IR remote commands into your B400S via IR in, go to the settings menu of the BluOS app, select player and then IR remote. Simply select the function desired from the IR remote menu, point an IR remote control at the IR repeater, and press the button to perform that function. Once successful, a check mark will appear beside the programmed function. You can now use the IR remote control to command the B400S with the programmed functions. Section 10. Signal block. Magnetic switch, surface mount contacts, or similar devices can be hooked up via the signal block terminals 1 and ground. Refer to your device's installation procedure for proper connection with the B400S. Depending upon your alarm or control system's configuration and doorbell settings in the BluOS app, corresponding activation of your device will immediately interrupt current source and chime tone or melody will be heard. Signal block terminals plus 5 volts and 2 allocations will be defined in a future software update. Section 11. AC mains input. The B400S comes supplied with 2 separate AC power cords. Select the AC power cord appropriate for your region. Before connecting the AC power cord plug to the mains power source, ensure that it is firmly connected to B400S AC mains input socket first. The B400S will power up upon connecting the AC power cord plug to a live mains power source. Always disconnect the AC power plug from the mains power source first before disconnecting the other end of the AC power plug from the B400S AC mains input socket. As displayed on this slide, the factory reset procedure is outlined here. A copy from the user guide found on the B400S webpage. This should be used when all other remedies are exhausted. We always suggest a simple reboot, remove power, reapply power, before using this step. Many times a reboot will assist in discovery of the player, as an example. The B400S uses one IP address and accesses each zone via a different port, 11,000, 10, 20, and 30. This is important to know when programming a control system. Make sure trigger enable is off when trigger not used, or unit will start up and immediately go off. It is recommended to leave the total number of zones enabled at 4. Do not enable jumble frames on a managed network switch. Typical application use of the B400S is to provide 4 streams, which, depending on the musical service, can be 4 different streams at the same time distributed via an 8-channel amplifier, like our A860 to 8 speakers in 4 different rooms. Thank you for reviewing the Bluesound Professional Technical Webinar for the B400S 4-Zone Network Music Player.